Rama, Hare Rama, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Krishna, Hare Hare, Rama, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Jaya Jaya Gurudev, 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 Gurudev. Jaya Prabhupada, 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 Jeo Kodanitai, Maya Poshashi, Kodanitai, Maya Poshashi. Iskam Guru Vindhi ki jai, Shri Prabhupada ki jai, Shri Shri Kodanitai, Maya Poshashi ki jai. Gaur Premanandi, Hari Bol. So I've been asked to speak a little bit about the holy name today. So I just heard a story that's very relevant, actually, to giving this class. Two disciples went to Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, And they said, we've been chanting for 20 years and we're getting nowhere. We're making no progress at all. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur said, well, that's very good. That's a very good sign. And they were really astounded. And he said, no, it's good because you could be becoming proud that you're getting places. So you're becoming humble, so that's a good sign. So on that qualification, I'll try and say something about the holy name. Jaya Jaya Shri Caitanya Jaya Nityananda Jaya Dvaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhaktarinda Jaya Jaya Shri Caitanya Jaya Nityananda Jaya Dvaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhaktarinda Jaya Jaya Shri Caitanya Jaya Nityananda Jaya Dvaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhaktarinda. So this is a beautiful, this is from the Caitanya Charitamrta, and it's Anshalila, chapter 1, text 99. So I guess we could go through the whole thing, right? Oh, to the purple, okay. Okay, so I'll just run through this one. So this is Tunde Tavini Ratim Vitanuti Tundavali Labdaye Kana Kroda Kadambini Gatayate Kana Buddhayabhya Spriham Chaita Prangana Sangini Vijayate Savendriyanam Kritam No Janai Janita Kiyabdya Amritai Krishneti Vanadwaye. I do not know how much nectar the two syllables Krishna have produced. When the holy name of Krishna is chanted, it appears to dance within the mouth. We then desire many, many mouths. When that name enters the holes of the ears, we desire many millions of ears. And when the holy name dances in the courtyard of the heart, it conquers the activities of the mind, and therefore all the senses become inert. So Prabhupada in the purport, very short purport, he says, this verse is included in the Vidagdha Madhava 1:15, a 7-act play written by Srila Rupa Goswami describing the pastimes of Krishna in Vrindavan. So I'll go on to the next one. Shloki Shuni Haridasa Hoila Ulasi, Lechite Lagila Slokera Ata Prashamasi. When Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu chanted this verse, Haridas Thakur, upon hearing the vibration, became jubilant and began to dance while praising its meaning. Okay, responsibly please. Krishna, Namera, Mahima, Shastra, Sadhu, Mukhe, Jani. Krishna Namera Mahima, Shastra Sadhu, Mukhe Jani. Namera, Madhuri, Aiche, Kahan, Nahi, Shuni, Namera Madhuri, Aiche, Kahan, Nahi, Shuni. Krishna Namera Mahima, Shastra Sadhu, Mukhe Jani. Namera Madhuri, Aiche, Kahan, Nahi, Shuni. Krishna Namera Mahima Shastra Sadhu Mukhe Jani. Namera Madhuri Achi Kahanahi Shuni.
Krishna Namera Mahima Shastra Sadhu Mukhe Jani.
Krishna Namera Mahima Shastra Sadhu Mukhe Jani.
Namera Madhuri Aiche Kahanahi Shuni.
Namera Madhuri Achi Kahanahi Shuni.
Krishna Namera Mahima Shastra Sadhu Mukhe Jani.
Krishna Namera Mahima Shastra Sadhu Mukhe Jani.
Namera Madhuri Aishe Kahana Hisuni.
Namera Madhuri Aiche Kahanahi Shuni.
Ladies,
Krishna Namara Mahima Sastra Sadhumukhe Jani.
Krishna Namera Mahima Shastra Sadhumukhe Jani.
Namara Madhurya Chekana Ishani.
Namera Madhurya Chekana Ishani.
Krishna Namera Mahima Shastra Sadhumukhe Jani.
Krishna Namera Mahima Shastra Sadhumukhe Jani.
Namera Madhurya Chekana Ishani.
Namera Madhurya Chekana Ishani.
Krishna Namera Mahima Shastra Sadhumukhe Jani.
Krishna Namera Mahima Shastra Sadhumukhe Jani. Namera Madhurya Chekana Ishani.
Krishna Namera Mahima. The glories of the holy name of Lord Krishna. Shastra of the revealed scriptures. Sadhu of the devotees. Mukhe in the mouth. Jani, we can understand. Namera Madhuri, the sweetness of the holy name. Ache, in that way. Kahan, anywhere else. Nahi Shuni, we do not hear. One has to learn about the beauty and transcendental position of the holy name of the Lord by hearing the revealed scriptures from the mouths of devotees. Nowhere else can we hear of the sweetness of the Lord's holy name. Responsively, please. One has to learn about the beauty and transcendental position of the holy name of the Lord by hearing the revealed scriptures from the mouths of devotees. Nowhere else can we hear of the sweetness of the Lord's holy name. It is said in the Padma Purana, Atashi Krishna Namadi Nabhavat Kraim Indriya. Chanting and hearing of the transcendental holy name of the Lord cannot be performed by the ordinary senses. The transcendental vibration of the Lord's holy name is completely spiritual. Thus, it must be received from spiritual sources and must be chanted after having been heard from a spiritual master. One who hears the chanting of the Hare Krishna mantra must receive it from the spiritual master by oral reception. Srila Sanatana Goswami has forbidden us to hear the holy name of Krishna chanted by non-Vaishnavas, such as professional actors and singers, for it will have no effect. It is like milk touched by the lips of a serpent, as stated in the Padma Purana. Avaishnava mukhodang gyanam putam harikatamritam shravanam naiva kartavyam sapochistam yatapaya. As far as possible, therefore, the devotees in the Krishna consciousness movement gather to chant the holy name of Krishna in public, so that both the chanters and the listeners may benefit. Om Ajnana Timirandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshurun Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Caitanya Manobishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupagadam Ayam Dadati Swavadantikam Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadha Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhaktarinda Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Vanchikapatrubhyascha kripa sindhubhyevacha paritanam bhavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. So, very beautiful verse by Rupa Goswami from his Vidagdha Madhava, and I'll just read that again. I do not know how much nectar the two syllables Krishna have produced. When the holy name of Krishna is chanted, it appears to dance within the mouth. We then desire many, many miles, and when the name enters the holes of the ears, we now desire many millions of ears. And when the holy name dances in the courtyard of the heart, it conquers the activities of the mind, and therefore all the senses become inert. So Srila Prabhupada, he makes the point that, that this holy name has to be received via a pure devotee. And if it's not, then it is like milk touched by the lips of a serpent. So there's one conversation in Chant and Be Happy, and Srila Prabhupada is speaking with the Beatles, and Yoko Ono chirps up that how can something spiritual be contaminated? If the milk is spiritual, then it doesn't matter how many serpents spit in the milk stays pure, isn't it? Or you would think so. So here it's been clarified that that's not the case, because it's not actually milk. It's only milk when it's heard from the lips of a pure devotee. Although it may look like milk, but it is actually poison. Interestingly, could sound the same. Sometimes it's like that also with us. We can chant, and it sounds like the same mantra, but it feels completely different because of the way you're chanting. So it's not just the mantra. And Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, he compares the mantra to a capsule. He says you can have two capsules, and they look exactly the same. One capsule is full of nectar, and one capsule is full of poison. You think, oh, this one looks okay. So it can look the same, it can sound the same, but whether or not it is the same, if it is actually the holy name, then when you're chanting, then you'll be experiencing wanting to have many, many mouths, then many, many ears, and then dancing in the courtyard of the heart. So you could look at your own chanting and think, am I chanting? Am I just chanting? Or am I actually chanting? Is it AC or is it JC? Is it actual chanting or is it just chanting? Am I just doing it? Look at him over there, he's totally spaced out. Look at him, he's going to knock over Tulsi if he's not going, Look, he's got a hole in this. That's 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 not the holy name. So anyway, the challenge is, can we chant the holy name? If you're chanting the holy name, and there's a hierarchy of how the holy name, how you meet the holy name. First of all, you meet the holy name on the tongue. First of all, the holy name starts dancing on the tongue. And then you wish you had many millions of tongues. And once it's been dancing on the tongue for some time, then it goes into the ear. And then after it goes into the ear, then it dances in the courtyard of the heart. And so if you get to that point with your chanting, where you're in the courtyard of your heart, you'll be there dancing with the holy name. Then you'll know you're actually chanting. So we're trying to anyway. And we're hearing about the holy name. Because we may not be aware that we're not hearing the holy name unless we hear about what hearing about the holy name means. And then we may think, well, I thought I was hearing the holy name, but now I've just heard that if you were hearing the holy name, you'd be desiring many millions of tongues. This morning, I was desiring that the clock would go many million times faster. And I would get my rounds done millions of times faster. And I could dance in the courtyard of the shop and find some bargains. That's what I was thinking this morning. So was I really chanting, you see? So then we hear about it. No, Prabhu, if you were hearing the holy name, you'd be dancing in the courtyard of the heart. Really? I didn't know that. Yeah, that's what's supposed to be going on, Prabhu. You're supposed to be wishing you had millions of tongues, millions of ears, and dancing in the courtyard. Okay, right, okay. So I've probably got to revisit the chanting process again, because that's not happened just yet. And that's why Rupa Goswami says you have to be patient, because it doesn't happen straight away. And don't let me put you off, because I've been chanting for quite a while now. So, but you have to be. Of course, Krishna is very kind. He gives you little glimpses along the way to encourage you to keep going. But Krishna isn't cheap, and Krishna wants everything. And we're wondering. There's a very nice song by Bhaktivinoda Thakur, and he's talking about the marketplace of the holy name, and you have to have some currency in the marketplace. So if you're in the marketplace of the holy name looking for the pound shop, then you're not going to get, if it's in the pound shop, it's not going to be, like if I bought my wife a really nice diamond ring, and she says, oh, that's amazing, where did you get it from? So, well, actually, I got 10 of them from the pound shop, so you can put a different one every day of the week. Then usually she'd be like, okay. So if you're in the pound shop, you're not going to get a lot from the holy name. The currency for prema is pure gold, and that's the color of pure love. If you want the holy name, then you have to have pure love. And if you don't have pure love, then Dasa, those who are intelligent will be crying. They'll be crying because they're in the marketplace and they can't afford it. And they're seeing this amazing thing and they're thinking, oh, I wish I could buy that. And then they become really sad. And then Lord Caitanya comes along and says, what's the problem? Well, I'd like that gold holy name, and I've only got £1. And Lord Caitanya says, all right, okay, so you need £5,000. Okay, here's £5,000. So we need the mercy, we need Lord Caitanya. And that's what Prabhupada's saying, that if you want the holy name, then it has to be received from the spiritual master. It has to be given to you. So, any questions or comments? Yes, Shyamasundar Prabhu. And then that baby over there's got a question as well.
Well, this in the purport, particularly, Prabhupada talks about one of the devotees in the audience made comments about that, so it kind of reminds us about that.
So, are you making asking a question or just making a point?
Well, I just thought maybe this is your forte, so I thought maybe you could talk about that a little bit as well.
So Shyamasundar just posed a very awkward point so that I can writhe in agony before the devotees. So he's saying, on the one hand, we shouldn't hear it. We have to be qualified to hear the holy name. And then on the other hand, Prabhupada's saying, as far as possible, the devotees in the Krishna consciousness movement gather to chant the holy name of Krishna in public so that both the chanters and the listeners may benefit. So the ninth offense to the holy name is to preach the glories of the holy name to people who are unqualified, people who don't have any faith. And you're saying to them, oh, this is amazing. It's, we're going to be dancing with Krishna and Radharani and the gopis and persons like wondering what you're talking about. So that's offensive because that will impede the person's progress. So at that point, the person is not qualified to understand, but he is able to hear the holy names and he'll experience some happiness. I think for most of us, having done a little survey on the devotees who joined Krishna consciousness, the turning point for a lot of them was, they maybe read the books and they maybe did a bit of chanting. But the turning point was when they saw the devotees on Harinam, and they thought, "Wow, I'd like to experience that kind of uninhibited, joyous." And it is an ecstasy actually. The devotees are maybe not on the platform of full ecstasy, full bhava, but certainly they're getting a glimpse of it. And so people can see that and they think, that's what I want. I'd like to be like that. I'd like to experience that as well. So then their initial faith is there. Then they start the process. And then bit by bit by bit by bit by bit, we go through all the cantos. It's very systematic Krishna consciousness. We start with the Anukta body, then there's a God, and then we have a relationship with him, and then he has pastimes. And then eventually we get to the point where we're looking at Krishna's face. So it's the same with the chanting as well. We have to build up our faith to come to the point of being able to understand confidential. But initially, just to be exposed to the sound vibration and to see the devotees relishing the chanting is enough to invoke within people a desire to want to experience that for themselves. Although at this point, they don't know anything about the holy name. So that's why Prabhupada wanted us to go out and share the holy name. And Narada Muni explains that when you chant, you get so much benefit from chanting. But when you go out and chant publicly, then you get 100 times the benefit because you're sharing the holy name with others, giving other people the opportunity. Does that answer the question?
Wonderful. Could you say something about that little clip? How viral it's gone?
The little. Oh yeah. So Shyamasundar was mentioning we have a famous video clip. It was so famous actually because we go around the shops asking people to support our projects in Scotland, and we were going into the shops and people were going, "Saw your video clip. Hate preacher meets the Hare Krishnas." Spot on. And in the comments below, it's been watched how many times? 1 million times, right?
Yeah, altogether on 3 platforms is about millions.
1 million times. And in the comments, there's a lot of comments, but only one of the ones that struck me was hate meets love. Because the hate preacher's got written on the back, repent, sinner. And what was it he kept saying over and over? You are the sons of hell. You are the sons of hell. Something like that. Or the sons of Satan. You are the sons of Satan. And we went shouting back at him, no, you are a Yamaduta. We weren't getting into it. We were just, Hare Krishna. And the crowd, it was like the cavalry. Because the crowd, I think the crowd were getting a bit bored with it, getting told they were going to hell. And then the next minute, there was an intermission in the broadcast, and up came the devotees, and all the people to know, hooray! And then the devotees come in. It's like they come in on a wave of ecstasy, Hare Krishna, and it just floods everything, and everyone else is like, yay! This is what we've been waiting for. And the funny thing is, the person who's the hate preacher, he came up to us, didn't he, after we did it, and he goes, "That was," he says, "I enjoyed that, thank you." And he's really chilled out now. In fact, he's stopped preaching now. He's been purified by the holy name. So that's how it works. We didn't preach to him the glories of the holy name. We just exposed him to the sound vibration, and then he starts to make progress. And then you can tell by, you see, the best thing with preaching the glories of the holy name is not to give a person the answer for a question that is not asked. It's better to wait until they ask the question that you want to give the answer to. If they don't ask the question, you can't give the answer. It's just not going to mean anything. It's like there's a book by Monty Python. Sorry to quote that in class, but it kept saying the answer to the universe is coming up very soon, and you're reading through the book, and you think, well, that'll be pretty far. And it says, answer to the universe, only 10 pages to go, Answer to only 9 pages to go. Anyway, you get to it. So eventually there's this one page, and it's got written on it, 42. And it says, this is the answer to the universe. But now we've got to find out what the question is. So we don't want to give people answers which are inappropriate, because they've not formulated, they've not got to that point where they're maybe thinking about that this is anything more than just a mundane sound vibration. Then it makes them feel good and it makes them feel happy, and that's fine. And then if later on they come back and they say, I've been chanting Hare Krishna, and since I've been doing it, I just can't get into my sausage rolls anymore. In fact, I've thrown them out the window. What's going on? And you could say, well, did you realize the holy name purifies you and frees you from the mode of ignorance? And then it would stay at that. And then the next time I was chanting and it felt like something was dancing on my tongue. Well, did you know? Rupa Goswami explains. So then as they ask the question, then we can give the answer. So we just have to wait. And we have to, it's like a doctor may have a lot of different stuff in his little medicine bag, and he's going around and he was chasing people around the ward with this massive hypodermic needle with a 3-point needle on it, saying, come on, get it, and the person's running away scared. So he thinks, okay, this one's going to freak out. Just give him a little sugar limb. That's all he can take right now. And then eventually when the person's like, doctor, give me the big needle. I need it. I'm in a mess, give me it. Let me have it. So then that's okay. And then he can give him. But if he's just chasing around with this massive needle, it's like, no, you have to give it up. You have to give that up. You have to give it up. No, this nonsense, give it up. No. So we just give them a little sugar lump. No, this is fine. Yeah. Like Prabhupada did, he initiated the first batch of devotees were initiated, and they found out later on what the regular principles were. It was written up on the wall. And then they found out, oh, that's what I didn't realize it. He just said, just chant, everything will be fine, Any other questions or comments? Yes, Chagoku.
See, when you give beads to a child, recently we had a Bhagavad Gita course, and there was over 20 children we had given them the beads. Actually, the next one, 7 of them had chanted, one round, so which was great. How about for them, explaining, when you say you need to wait until they ask, but these are children, young children, 6-year onwards.
So when you're watching children chant, I mean, sometimes it's amazing. You can see a child chanting and the child is very absorbed, but generally they're not so absorbed. And sometimes you can see the child doesn't really know what he's supposed to be doing. He's in there with everybody else chanting, and his dad's told him he should chant. So he's got his bead bag on, but he's not connected. He's just like, I don't know. You can see he's not connected to the holy name. He's just doing it because his dad wants him to do it. And so he's going along with it. So he wouldn't, I don't think he would get a very deep question from a child at that stage. So we offer the process to everybody, but then it will take time for them to assimilate what's going on and then formulate an appropriate question. And it may be that they're not mature enough. It's like if you're telling a child about male and female relationships, the child's not mature enough to understand what you're talking about. He doesn't, when I was a kid, I was wondering what the big fuss was, between male and female. It's not until later on when, puberty kicks in and, okay, I see what it's all about. Up until then, it's like, what's all the big, they're just like guys with a couple of, lumps and long hair and just really, and so you don't see, and then later on, okay. So when they're not mature enough, they won't be able to assimilate the question properly or formulate the question properly. But it's still good that you get them chanting when they're very young, because they're very innocent as well. So the chanting isn't so motivated. And, there's no seventh offense really there. They're just chanting. And then as they start to get older and all these other things start to kick in, then it'll be, then what will they do with that information, their experience that they've had? Do they want to go toward? Because Krishna doesn't want to force anybody to go towards him. So you may be born in a Vaishnava family, and you may have Krishna being thrust upon you from as early as you can remember, and you've been getting prasadam and kirtan and the deities and everything, but you haven't chosen just yet. We've chosen. We've come from militia backgrounds personally, and we've been on one side of the fence, and we've chosen to go on the other side of the fence. The kids have been born on one side of the fence, but they didn't choose to be on that side of the fence, so they may want to climb up and have a look on the other side of the fence and make a choice for themselves, you see. So, yes, Ruth.
Just a comment on this. I heard that the example is better than a lot of parents who were very successful with their children taking up chanting. They didn't ask them to chant, but they set a very good example. It's like Srila Prabhupada, he opened his eyes in the morning. He was waken up by a ring sounding, and he opened his eyes to see his father offering Arati to Radha and Krishna in the house. So that's a very powerful example that parents said that they really are into the holy name and they really chanting properly and very nicely. That is can be a lot more effective. This is giving a deep dive to the child and saying,
Yeah, when you have kids in consciousness, the pressure's rarely on you because everyone's looking at the kids thinking, okay, how are the kids going to turn out? No, I'm okay. I'm completely fired up. Well, what about the kids? Oh, that's but it's a reflection of how you've taken up Krishna consciousness. Then the kids imbibe that mood, and they take to it or they don't. So it's quite a heavy responsibility when you're taking it up, because in one sense they're completely independent and they can do whatever they want. You have no control, but how they act will reflect upon you. So it's quite a heavy situation. I remember one lady was telling me, she says, when you have kids, she says, remember that the kid is a completely separate living entity from you, and it can do whatever it wants. It's not going to do what you do just because you do it. It will do what it wants according to what it wants. It'll make its own choice, So you trying to force it to be like you is not going to work. But she said, but at the same time, every time something goes wrong with the kid, it'll be like a knife through your heart. You'll feel it like it's your own heart, even more maybe than the kid. When something goes wrong with the kid, so there you are. You've got a limb that you can't control, but every time it gets stabbed, you feel the pain. So that's intense. That's what having children is. So if we're into our own Krishna consciousness and we're not like kind of negative in any way about practicing Krishna consciousness, then the kids will pick up on that and they'll take up Krishna consciousness very deeply. But if we're not, and we're just like pretending to do things, but we couldn't really be bothered doing it, and we haven't really got that much faith, then the kids will pick up on that as well, you know. So the pressure's on. So really, with Krishna consciousness, although we're trying to share it, we're trying to spread it, we're trying to include so many people, but it really comes down to are we going to save ourselves? Before we can save anybody else, we have to save ourselves. Srila Prabhupada said that's the highest principle, to save yourself. And if you look at the way our day is structured, we have a lot of me time. I mean, I've been going around the businesses during December, and people are really rich, but there's one commodity that they don't have that we do have as devotees. They don't have any time for themselves. And they may have loads and loads of money and massive cars. And in fact, the more money they get, the more they become embroiled in how to maintain everything and look after everything. And there's so much worry and so much distraction involved. And the bigger their empire gets, and then they've got to delegate responsibility and then make sure that that person's doing his job. And so all this distraction is going on. And then, you say, why don't you try some meditation? And they say, and here we have practically nothing. But we have 2 hours a day when we can meditate. We have 1 hour a day when we can hear class and think about philosophy. We have quality association. These are all really, really valuable, very, very rare commodities, I mean, how often does the Queen get to dance in the Kirtan? How often does she get to talk about the Holy Name with Prince Charles? It's just not going to come up, is it? Oh, I say, I was chanting the Holy Name yesterday and experienced a wave of ecstasy. What do you think about that, Charles? It's just not going to happen, is it? But she's got palaces and massive carriages and everyone's photographing her and she's the center of attention, but she's not got a very, very, very valuable commodity that we have. And if we were to do a survey and ask how many people in Great Britain right now have got bead bags, how many do you think there would be? But I would put forward the presumption or the observation that there's more people that are not chanting Hare Krishna that have got bead bags than people that have got bead bags that are chanting Hare Krishna. So that's what happens. We have a very valuable commodity, and we get cheated to just putting it down. Put it in the cupboard and just forget about it. Just let it gather some dust. We get tricked into giving it up. Maybe when we first come, we're like really excited. Oh my God, this chanting is going to give me eternal blissful life. Hari Bol. And then we're really fired up. But then later on, for one reason or another, we put the bead bag down and we don't chant anymore. So we need to associate with devotees to remind us that we need to chant. That chanting is very, very important, it's very valuable. And if you've been chanting for 20 years and you feel like you're going nowhere, that's great, because you are going somewhere, you're getting humble. So you have to recalibrate how you're assessing your progress. Maybe you thought that when you started chanting, after 3 years you'd be, behind Narada Muni. So Hari Bol, Narada, I've been chanting pretty good. Do you mind if I just tag along? And Narada Muni said, yeah, okay. So and you've got this ultrasonic bead bag now, So when you chant Hare Krishna, and you're up through the temple roof floor, to the temple room roof, there you go. It's my God, he's chanting good rounds this morning. So we have this idea of what we think good chanting is going to be, and after I'll really be going places in 30 years, I'll be like, when I chant, my bead bag will go on fire, and sweet balls will come dropping through the sky, and I'll float. I'll be an inch off the ground. I heard that when Srila Prabhupada was walking on the beach, quite often it happened that the devotees would look and they could see their footsteps, everyone else's footsteps, but there was no marks from Srila Prabhupada's feet. Malati was saying, there was a few devotees that said it, Shamasundar was saying it as well. Prabhupada's feet never touched the ground. So we're thinking, well, I'll chant and I'll just be able to float along and that'll be brilliant, you know. Or maybe you won't. Maybe as you're chanting, you'll start feeling very unworthy. And this is the precursor for danya, for real humility to enter. That you're really feeling that you're unqualified and unworthy. But we're not expecting to feel like that. We're thinking, well, yeah, can we skip that bit and go to the bit where I'm feeling really qualified and really worthy? Oh, well, you don't get that before you get this, because that's the price you have to pay. Haridas Thakur was feeling very unqualified, and he was the Namacharya. So the higher up you go, the lower down you feel. So that's a kind of disorientating, isn't it? It's like the faster you run in a race, the further back you get. You know, you're running in a race and you're thinking, I'll be ahead of everybody else. I've been in the movement 2.5 hours longer than you, pal. And I've done 100 books more than you. And I've eaten 10 times as much halwa as you. And I'm really going places now, you know. But as you're making progress, everyone else starts looking like they're much better than you are. And so much more advanced than you are. And that's you making progress. Because Krishna's there, you see. We're running this way, but actually we have to turn around. Oh, Krishna's where you feel really humble and lower than a blade of grass. That's not the direction we've been trained up to run in, is it? And it feels like, wow, I'm going backwards. It's getting worse. I can't even look at myself in the mirror. But that's good. Vasishananda Saraswati Thakur said, that's good, that's a good sign.
Thank you for class, Robert. In terms of this humility, does it have sort of connections with I know personally the times I've had good days on books or something, because you feel that you're not worthy, so then you can just approach people randomly, or so that you can interact with people much better when you feel that you're not able to. So what's the connection between like this fear and humility?
Well, we have an idea. We have a sense that being humble means I'm going to be really timid, you know. I'll be like going around like a little mouse. And that's our idea of what humble is, you know. And then if you're approaching people on book distribution and you're saying, excuse me, would you like to look at? No. Okay, sorry. And excuse me, would you like to? No. Okay, I'm sorry. So you wouldn't really get very far. So that's a misconceived idea. Like Arjuna was thinking, I'm just going to be really humble. Just let them kill me, you know. Let them stamp over me. Let them fill me with arrows. I don't mind. I'm just going to be humble. I'm just going to be a sadhu, and I'm not going to get. And then Krishna saying, no, your duty is to fight without considering loss or victory or defeat, loss or gain. You have to become detached from the result and do your duty fearlessly. So we think that being fearless means you'd have to be really proud. Excuse me, yeah, you over there, yeah, I'm talking to you. Come here. I'm going to give you a book, all right? And you're going to give me a massive donation. Is that understood? Okay, come on, cough up. And you become a fearless book distributor, you know. So that's like a kind of mundane idea of what we think being fearless is. But fearless in the sense that we're detached from the result. So we'll try the best we can, and whether the person takes or not, okay, well, that's up to Krishna. And I'm just doing the best I can, you know. We have a right to perform our prescribed duty, but we're not attached to the fruits of our action. Never consider yourself the doer of activities, and never be attached to not doing your duty. That's humility. That's what humility means. It's not a kind of mundane, false idea of humility. Humility is becoming detached and becoming... when you're detached, you see, then you're unafraid, because what is there to be afraid of? We're only afraid because of attachment. If you have no attachment, if you're not attached to your body, you're not attached to your prestige, you're not attached to your false ego, what's there to be afraid of? You're not even afraid of death. If you're detached, then you're not afraid of death. Okay, take the body. I keep existing. I'm not worried. I mean, the worst thing that can happen to you is you can die, right? If you're not worried about dying, then everything else is secondary, isn't it? Whatever they're going to do. It's very rare someone will shoot you on Sankirtan, you know. Would you like a book? Hold on a second. No. It's very rare that's going to happen, right? So if you're not afraid of dying, then there's not much really to get upset about, is there? I mean, it may tell you to get lost, but it's like getting lost is not like getting killed, is it? Okay. Have a nice day. And then just go on to the next one. Excuse me. I heard it said once, actually, I thought it was really nice, that if you feel insignificant, then you also feel fearless. Which is an interesting meditation on Sankirtan, if you meditate like that. I'm a tiny, tiny fraction of consciousness, a tiny speck of Krishna inside a body, approaching this other person. And as one famous person said, we have nothing to fear but fear itself. So fear is attachment, really. If we're afraid of being attached, then that's really good, you know. But a lot of the time we're afraid of being detached. We're afraid of things being taken away from us. We're afraid of the very thing that's going to free us from fear. If you're in a hole long enough, deep enough, and somebody's coming up with a big torch, then you're afraid because you've been in the hole for so long. This is your security. I'm in the darkness. I'm in ignorance. There's a song like that. Deep is where I am. And he's saying, the deeper down he can go, the more at home he feels. The further away from Krishna, the more embedded in the material energy, the safer he feels. And then we're afraid to come out of the material energy. And that's Maya. That's what Maya's doing. She's tricking us into being afraid of the wrong thing. We're afraid of Krishna. We're not afraid of Maya. We think Maya's our pal. We think Krishna's like a heavy guy that just pushes you around and hits you on the head with a club and fires a discus at you. But it's Maya we should be afraid of. Prabhupada said like that, he said that the only problem with my disciples is they're not sufficiently afraid of Maya. And there's a nice book actually by Devamrita Maharaj, and he's explaining the dialogue that's going on with the devotee and Maya. So Maya says, look, you've been doing this for a while now, you know, and you're not getting much taste, are you really? Come on. And you're probably not going to get much taste in the next 20 years, but I'm your old pal Maya, and I've got a few little tidbits here that'll just make it a bit juicy for you, keep you going, you know. I mean, I know Krishna's God and everything. We can still do a bit of chanting, but check this out. This will give you a bit of a taste. So that's what Maya is. I'm your pal, you know. I mean, it's a long haul. We're in this for a long haul. You need a bit of this and that to keep you going, you know. So that's how Maya seduces the devotee. So yet, I mean, Arjuna it looked like he was really humble at the beginning of the battle because he didn't want to fight. Everybody was thinking, well, you know, Dhritarashtra was thinking, oh, fantastic. We're not going to have to fight, you know. We'll just get the kingdom. And so it looked really good. And then Krishna started getting Arjuna fired up. And then at the end, he was really, really ready to go. And he was actually humble. He was aligned with what was being asked of him. He was going to do his duty. He was going to get everything he got. And that was him actually being really humble. He gave up his own idea of what he thought it should be. And he just followed what Krishna wanted. And Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, he was known as a singer guru. He was like so heavy, you know. He'd like chastise somebody and they'd lose consciousness. Or they'd make a mess of their dhoti or something like that. He used to grab little Bengalis and shake them. He used to lift them up to the ground and shake them and say, what is this Mayavadi nonsense? And he was like so fierce. But he just assumed that role, but actually his inner self was very, very humble. He was very extremely humble. You wouldn't maybe see that initially. Somebody died that had been causing him a lot of disturbance, and they said he's dead. He's died now, and he cried. He started crying. He said, "Oh, my best friend has died." Because in his humility, he was thinking, "This person is protecting me from pride." And the devotees were really surprised. They didn't think he would react like that at all. So humility is actually being very, very determined, very focused, and having full faith, giving it everything you've got. That's actually humble.
Just a comment from Eamon says, Hare Krishna, Happy New Year to you all. I am far from you or any devotees, so your daily lessons have grown a source of knowledge and comfort to me. I hope one day to visit you there.
Jai. Amen. Where is Amen from?
I'm not sure.
You'll have to come and land from whichever planet you're on, Amen, in Lesmahe Goloka. There's a few in the pipeline that want to come along now, actually, so hopefully we'll have a big influx. Right now we have the temple room is about half full, so we can squeeze into the 30 in no problem. So yeah, the chanting is, it can seem a little bit discouraging because what's happening as you're making progress, it can seem like you're going backwards, but what's happening is your estimation of yourself is being dismantled. Krishna's very kind. He does it particle by particle. He doesn't just smash you all in one go. Over a period of years, he chips away at the false ego and it starts to disintegrate. Prabhupada said that the sound vibration dissolves the false ego. So every time you're chanting, you're pouring acid into your ear and it's just disintegrating the false ego. And the false ego is the adhesive that attaches the soul to the body. We're attached to the body because of identification with it. And I'll end with this actually, which is interesting. If you were to get an arm, a false arm, you went like that with your back, and you put the false arm on the table, and it was just here, and you knew it was false, like anything, and then somebody was stroking your arm. It wasn't your arm, but it felt like it was your arm, it was just here, you know, and they're just like stroking it and massaging it, and you know it's not your arm. And then suddenly, from nowhere, they just whip out this massive hammer and go, people, ah! And they actually feel pain, because as soon as you identify with something and you become attached to something, so we know we're not the body, we know that, but we're still attached, we're still conditioned. So the chanting is to relieve us of that identification so we can become more and more aware, till eventually we become like the coconut. If you have a coconut long enough, when you go like that, you can hear it. The white bit inside shrinks, and it's in the coconut, but it's not connected anymore. So we want to be like little rattling coconuts. We're going around, we're in the body, but we're not attached to it anymore. It's just the vehicle that we're using for 70 years, 80 years before it conks out. And Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur said, the success of the human form of life is to wear the body out doing Hari Bhajan. Just wear it out. Just run it right into the ground, doing Hari Bhajan. So, and become detached from the body. And then you break it open and there's the coconut. Yes, Kangaravindra ki, Srila Prabhupada ki, Gaura Premanandi. Gaura Bhaktivinoda ki jai.